Right now, you are doing something. Maybe you're about to scratch your nose, or shift in your seat, or reach for your phone. Here's what's actually happening. About half a second ago, before you had any thought, any urge, any sense of wanting to do it, your brain quietly issued the order. The decision was already executed. The signal was already traveling down your spine. And somewhere, slightly after all of that, a feeling arrived in your head that felt exactly like, I'm choosing to do this. That feeling wasn't the cause. It was the receipt. Tonight, we're going to follow that signal to where it starts. And by the end, you'll understand why the most disturbing experiment in the history of neuroscience wasn't about memory, or sleep, or what happens when you die. It was about something much simpler, a button, a clock, and the terrifying gap between when your brain decides and when you think you do. In 1983, a neurophysiologist named Benjamin Libet ran an experiment at the University of California, San Francisco, that most people have still never heard of. And yet, it is almost certainly the most unsettling thing science has produced in the last 100 years. The setup was simple to the point of being boring. You sit in a chair, in front of you a clock, not a normal one, a dot that sweeps around a dial every 2.5 seconds, fast enough that you can track exactly where it is in real time. Your only job? Whenever you feel like it, press a button. Anytime, you decide. And when you press it, note exactly where the dot was when you first felt the urge. That's it. You're in complete control. You choose. You report when you chose. Here's what the electrodes on Libet's subjects' heads found. About 550 milliseconds, over half a second, before each person reported feeling the urge to press, their brain was already generating what scientists call a readiness potential, a rising wave of electrical activity in the motor cortex, the specific signal that produces movement. The decision, in other words, was already made. Not predicted, not suggested, already made. The neurons were firing. The instruction was dispatched. And only then, half a second later, did a sensation arrive in the person's mind that felt like, I'm choosing this now. Libet ran the experiment on dozens of people. He ran it again. The result held every single time. Your brain decides. Then you experience deciding in that order. Maybe you're thinking, half a second is barely anything. Maybe the conscious mind is still driving the car, just with a slight delay. Hold that thought. In 2008, a neuroscientist named John Dylan Haynes at the Max Planck Institute for Human Cognitive and Brain Sciences put people inside an fMRI scanner and asked them to do the same basic thing. Press one of two buttons, freely, whenever they felt like it. Then report when they'd decided. The difference was that Haynes could watch their brain in real time, and he found he could predict which hand they were going to use, left or right, up to 10 seconds before the person had any conscious awareness of having made a decision. Not half a second, 10 seconds. He could read the outcome of the choice from the brain's activity before the person had experienced anything that felt like choosing. The answer was already written in the prefrontal cortex. The subject just hadn't been told yet. 10 seconds is not a processing delay. 10 seconds is a different story entirely. It means that when you sat down to watch this video, before you reached for your phone, before you clicked play, before you decided anything, the outcome was already taking shape somewhere inside your skull, in a room you have no access to, with no lights on, and you found out about it last. But here's the part nobody talks about. It's not just that your decisions are made before you know. It's what your brain does when you ask it why. In the 1970s and 80s, a neuroscientist named Michael Gazzaniga was studying patients whose brains had been surgically split in two. People with severe epilepsy sometimes had the thick cable connecting their left and right brain hemispheres cut to prevent seizures from spreading. After surgery, the two halves couldn't talk to each other anymore. Gazzaniga could flash an instruction only to the right brain, through the left visual field. The left brain, the half that controls language, would see nothing. In one experiment, he showed the right brain a single word: walk. The patient stood up and started walking toward the door. The left brain didn't receive the instruction. It didn't know why the body was moving. Then Gazzaniga asked, "Why are you getting up?" The left brain, confident, immediate, certain, said, "I'm going to get a drink of water." It didn't say, "I don't know." It didn't pause. It invented a reason immediately that sounded completely plausible, even to the person saying it. Gazzaniga called the left brain the interpreter. Its job is not to discover why you do things. Its job is to construct a story that makes what you just did feel like a decision you made on purpose. Three things this is not. It's not that nothing you do matters. The decisions are real. Their consequences are real. It's not that you're a puppet controlled by something outside of you. The processes in your brain are you. Your history, your body, your life, all firing together. And it's not that this leaves you helpless. Because there's one more piece, and it's the strangest one yet. In 2011, researchers published a paper in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences that became one of the most widely read social science studies of the decade. They spent 10 months analyzing the decisions of 8 Israeli judges across 1,112 parole hearings, ruling on whether prisoners would be released or kept inside. And their decisions followed a single pattern above everything else: whether or not they had recently eaten. Right after a food break, judges granted parole about 65% of the time. As the hours stretched on, that rate fell. Just before the next break, it was approaching 0. Then they ate, and it jumped back to 65%. Experienced, legally trained judges deciding the fate of other people's lives based in measurable part on the state of their blood sugar, and none of them knew. Robert Sapolsky, a neuroscientist at Stanford, spent his career tracing that logic all the way back. His 2023 book, Determined, makes one argument. Every decision flows from genetics, from childhood, from what happened to your parents, from what you ate this morning, from the chemistry in your blood right now. There is no moment when you step outside your prior causes and freely choose. Every thought is downstream of everything that came before it. And here's the part your brain will try to reject. Even this thought, the one you're having right now about whether this is true, was produced by a brain you didn't build, running a process you didn't start, in a body shaped by causes that go back to before you were born. You're not watching the machine. You are the machine, trying to understand itself. But Libet himself, the man who started all of this, who found the half-second gap, didn't give up. He noticed something in his own data that most people skip over. Yes, the brain fires 550 milliseconds before you're aware of deciding. But there is a window, about 200 milliseconds, a fifth of a second, between the moment of conscious awareness and the actual movement. And in that window, the person can stop it. They can veto. Libet called it free won't. You may not be the author of your decisions, but you might be the editor. The action has already been drafted by processes you can't see. But something that is arguably you, can look at the draft and say, no, that's not nothing. If consciousness is not the writer, it might still be the gatekeeper, the place where a rising wave either completes itself or doesn't. Whether that counts as free will depends on what you thought free will meant in the first place. Think back to the beginning of this video. Before you clicked play, before you settled in, before anything you experienced as a decision, something inside you had already leaned toward pressing it. The interest was already there. The pull was already formed. And then you became aware of it, and you let it happen. Was that you choosing? Or was that the last step in a chain that started before you were born? Nobody has a clean answer. Not Libet's team, not Haynes, not Sapolsky. The science is real. What it means for a life, for a choice, for anything you do, that's still open. But here's what I keep coming back to. The fact that you are sitting here troubled by this question, turning it over, refusing to let it go. That is not the behavior of a machine that doesn't matter. That is the behavior of something that wants to understand itself. And maybe that's the only kind of freedom that was ever really on the table. Subscribe if the kind of question that unsettles you is also the kind you can't stop thinking about. Because next time, we're going to ask one of the strangest questions I know. What would happen if nobody on Earth, not one single person, could ever lie again? See you out there.